In this video, I will be going over MKUltra and the concept of psychic driving. This is an enormous topic, but I will do my best to summarize it for people new to the information. There are many different types of mind control that could fall under the umbrella of MKUltra. It can be used on an individual to create school shooters, like with Columbine, or the masses to swing public opinion one way or another. Think Hitler's book, Mein Kampf. MK. It is called psychic driving because the manipulators drive the victim to do their bidding, while they remain in the shadows. For someone using this method of control, it's as if they are psychic, manipulating things without actually touching them. This is, in fact, what psychic powers often represent in shows and games. This can be accomplished multiple ways, but one common one is by gang stalking a particular victim to abuse them. Multiple people form a cell and cooperate to make someone's life miserable and often addict them to drugs. Then one of them befriends the victim and is the only good part of their life. They become the victim's handler. After so much abuse, the victim enters into a suggestive state, which the handler can then take advantage of to direct their actions. This method allows for the creation of a school shooter or assailant with nothing for law enforcement to tie back to the cell. Ever wonder why the ultra-violent game Mortal Kombat changed the C to a K? A game about murder with the initials MK? These techniques are not isolated and uncommon. In these documents approved for release in 2010, MKUltra is described as being the backbone of CIA and Pentagon covert activities over the last 40 years. Their symbolism is pervasive throughout media. Let me give you some more examples of pop culture comms used to represent these cells and victims. Jason Bourne from The Bourne Identity symbolizes an MK'd killer. Some lines from the script clarify this.
His mind is broken. We broke.
They broke his mind. It's like behavioral software.
I send you to be invisible. I send you because you don't exist.
I send you because you don't exist. I send you to be invisible. He's presented as a super agent with elite skills, but that's just to give the movie entertainment value. He's a programmable killer, whose mind was broken by the CIA to create an invisible assassin. Invisible as in a nobody that won't tie back to the people who wanted the assassination to happen. The storyline of the movie is a warning to those involved in these systems. What might happen if one of their MK targets goes rogue and comes after the people who programmed them?
You're U.S. government property. You're a malfunctioning $30 million weapon. You're a total goddamn catastrophe. And by God, if it kills me, you're gonna tell me how this happened.
Reconcile this information with the frequently used storyline of an experiment to create a super soldier or weapon gone wrong. Jack from Mass Effect. Mewtwo from Pokemon. River from Firefly. 11 from Stranger Things, and many, many more. Abusing children to create weapons and monsters. When you hear talk of child sacrifice, this is the system they are referring to. These stories are not fiction. These experiments are real. They just aren't quite the same as how they are presented in media. Let's take a look at Pokemon. Pocket monsters. What might a monster in your pocket symbolize? What does it mean to train a monster? The first episode of the Pokemon anime gives instructions on how to abuse a victim while still appearing like the good guy. Ash is given a delinquent Pokemon who doesn't obey his orders to attack. Ash then throws a rock at Spearow, a Pokemon noted for having a terrible attitude and attacking other Pokemon. This results in Pikachu getting attacked and forced into the fight. Pikachu is then further abused. Do you see how a trainer symbolizes the role of a handler in these abuse ops? While it was Ash's actions that got Pikachu into the fight by provoking a monster with a terrible attitude, he comes off as the good guy, heroically trying to save Pikachu from a fight that he started. This eventually results in Pikachu fighting Ash's battle for him and attacking the Spearows. Let's look at another obvious example from Pokemon, Psyduck. Remember how I said that psychic powers in media usually represent the results of these abuse ops? That's exactly how Psyduck works in the Pokemon anime.
Much like Homer Simpson, Misty handled all of her issues with physical violence. She struck Psyduck and slapped it whenever it disrespected her or got out of line. In the Bridge Bike Gang, for example, Psyduck took Starmie's place opposite a biker's cloister. Its wimpy tail whip and ineffective scratch left Misty so embarrassed and desperate that she begged Cloister to give Psyduck a headache before Team Rocket interrupted the battle. Thereafter, Misty made it her mission to give Psyduck a headache as soon as it entered a battle.
Psyduck is useless in a fight until he is abused enough to get a headache, and then he develops immense psychic powers. This theme of summoning monsters to do battle for you is everywhere in pop culture, as the IPs that push these symbols get boosted in the algorithms and featured on the news or by content creators as a way to reward those that join or send messages about this system. Yu-Gi-Oh! Based on a manga originally called Magic and Wizards. Players summon monsters to attack each other. Magic the Gathering, a battle between wizards who summon creatures to fight for them. Much like psychic powers, wizards and magic also symbolize those who take part in this system and their actions from the shadows. Look at how illusion magic is described in Skyrim.
This is the College of Winterhold, a safe haven for mages in Skyrim, a place of wisdom and arcane knowledge. Perhaps, but what is it you expect to find within?
Bending others to your will.
Yes, the School of Illusion can be quite influential. Kings have risen to power because of it, and empires have been raised with it.
If you've ever seen a storyline about magic users being persecuted by the muggles or non-magical people of the world and been confused as to why people would do this, now you understand. They are a cult operating from the shadows to manipulate common folk like you and I. While I do detest these systems, I want to add here that I'm not trying to paint everyone involved in them as evil. I don't want a mob wielding pitchforks hunting them down. That won't benefit anyone. There is some nuance to it. Some people participate because it was the only way to gain power and thus affect the world. Some because they were raised from birth in this system and it is expected of them. Some people participate under threat of violence to them or their loved ones. Some of the work these people do is even for the greater good. You can, for instance, drive someone to better themselves. But being as it's all hidden, it's hard to discern when this is the case. Speaking of driving, let's look further into that symbol. Again, MKUltra mind control is called psychic driving in the official documents about it. And as I stated before, this is because the manipulators drive the target to act a certain way. This is commonly represented with vehicle symbolism, like Mario Kart. Ever wonder why they changed the C to a K in Mario Kart? A game about driving with the initials MK? Or Speed Racer, famous for being a murderous sociopath. Notice the M on the forehead of the main character? Just like the M on the main character of Mario Kart. Reminds me of the M on the forehead of Vegeta when he was mind-controlled by an evil wizard. Another obvious example is the favorite band of the Columbine school shooters, KMFDM, who just so happened to release an album called Adios the exact same day as the shooting. Looking at the album's cover, it contains imagery of driving and gun murder. Can you really excuse this as just a coincidence? With the advent of the internet, a new way of driving people has developed, hence the push to transition to electric vehicles, or EVs. EVs symbolize manipulating people over the internet instead of gang stalking or other methods that I outlined earlier. Hybrid cars are a combination of the methods. A good way to explain this is again with Pokemon. The Pokemon Eevee represents electric vehicles, or EVs. Fairly obvious once you think about it, right? This is how the truth about the way the world really works is hidden. Everything is in plain sight, dismissed as coincidence by those who don't understand the deeper meanings to the symbols. You can see that a major funding of EVs was announced the day the game Let's Go Eevee was released. There is even an electric vehicle charging company literally named Eevee. The Pokemon Eevee is known to be easily influenced by its environment. Think in terms of online influencers and echo chambers. Eevee's evolutions are various ways someone can be driven online. For example, Sylveon represents the trans community. Note its cutesy appearance, its colors being the same ones used in the trans flag. It is known as the intertwining Pokemon, as in intertwining genders. Sylveon represents taking someone online, in Eevee, and brainwashing or driving them into becoming trans. I've used Pokemon as an example many times now, because the comms in it are fairly obvious, and many people are familiar with the IP. I don't want you to start hating Nintendo because of this. This is how the world has worked for a very long time now. The majority of large companies have a side that participates in these systems. As far as I can tell, Nintendo is one of the good guys. They are currently helping to fight against the evils of this system. So to recap some of the basic concepts, MKUltra is psychic driving, manipulating or pushing people toward a specific goal or target. It can be done to an entire populace, like with Hitler, or it can be done to individuals, like with the Columbine shooters. In pop culture, this is usually represented with vehicle symbolism, like cars and racing. It can also be what human sacrifice refers to. A wealthy family needs someone assassinated, so low status or poor families offer one of their children up to be MK'd, and as a reward, they are given fame or wealth. They sacrifice their child for status. This ability to affect things from the shadows while remaining uninvolved personally is what psychic and magic powers often represent in pop culture. Summoning monsters or creatures to fight for you basically means brainwashing people to do your bidding. If you would like to learn more about MKUltra and comms, subscribe.